The U.S. tourism industry was anticipating a profitable year after the number of international visitors to the U.S. jumped in 2024. But as Elise Preston reports from Los Angeles, it seems many tourists have changed their plans.
Tourism is down in Las Vegas, but it's not just fewer visitors on the Las Vegas Strip or in downtown. It also means fewer customers of businesses around the valley that depend on tourists for their bottom line.
Tourism in Las Vegas is in a big slump this summer, costing the city billions of dollars. Some are saying that could signal trouble ahead for the U.S. economy.
Few industries capture the pulse of a nation's economy quite like tourism. In the mid-2010s, South Korea emerged as one of America's most reliable sources of visitors. Each year, more than 2 million Koreans land in the United States, filling hotels, renting cars, and dining in Korean barbecue spots from Los Angeles to New Jersey. Their presence did more than fill restaurants and tourist buses. It generated jobs, boosted local economies, and infused communities with an energy that never seemed to fade. But in less than a decade, that steady current of travelers has slowed to a faint trickle. Where long lines once stretched outside Korean eateries, empty tables now sit untouched. Uber drivers who once depended on groups of tourists from Seoul now wait longer between fares. Shopkeepers in Koreatowns across America whisper the same anxious question: where did all the Korean visitors go? The sudden disappearance of millions of travelers is more than a cultural shift. It's a financial wound quietly spreading across cities that once depended on this flow of guests. What caused such a dramatic retreat? And if the decline continues, what could it mean for the American tourism industry in the years ahead? 2 weeks ago, headlines across the United States carried the same startling story. In Georgia, hundreds of Korean employees at a Hyundai LG factory were abruptly escorted out, placed into ICE vehicles, and deported within days. The images that circulated online felt almost cinematic, but this was no movie. These were citizens of a trusted ally being removed under the watch of cameras and flashing lights. For many in South Korea, those pictures carried a chilling message. If workers from a close partner nation can be treated this way, how safe are ordinary travelers? Families planning vacations to Hawaii or Los Angeles began to hesitate. Why risk an unfriendly experience when Paris, Tokyo, or Bangkok seem far more welcoming? That hesitation carries a measurable price. On average, South Korean tourists spend over $4,000 per trip when visiting the United States. If just 100 people cancel their plans, nearly $500,000 vanish from local economies. That single figure equals the annual tuition of a student at a public university or the lifetime savings of a middle-class household. Multiply that by thousands of canceled trips, and the loss becomes staggering. But the deeper cost cannot be counted in dollars. It's the erosion of trust, a far more fragile currency. Recent surveys show that nearly 60% of South Koreans feel disappointed with how America handled the deportation incident. That disappointment seeps beyond politics. It influences decisions as personal as choosing a travel destination. Who wants to spend thousands of dollars visiting a country that suddenly feels unwelcoming? American officials may continue to describe the U.S. Korea alliance as strong and enduring, but what was seen on television told a different story. Workers led away in handcuffs. A factory transformed into a stage for fear. To many viewers in Seoul, it looked less like immigration enforcement and more like a breach of respect between partners. As one Korean commentator wrote online, if America wants empty streets, keep doing this. The words struck a nerve because they reflected a growing unease, one that questions not only how America treats its allies, but whether it still values the people-to-people ties that have long sustained its global reputation. When trust fades, the consequences ripple far beyond a single factory or deportation order. They reach into restaurants, hotels, and the pockets of everyday workers. Which eateries will close early? Which hotels will see half their rooms go unbooked? Whose paycheck will suddenly disappear? The empty chair inside a Korean barbecue restaurant becomes more than furniture. It becomes a symbol of lost opportunity, of friendship strained, and of trust drifting away like smoke from an industrial chimney. Korean travelers are especially valuable to the American economy because of how much they spend compared with others. On average, each visitor contributes more than $4,300 to U.S. businesses, nearly double what a typical European tourist spends. To put that in perspective, just 50 Korean visitors on a short trip to Las Vegas can inject nearly $200,000 into local restaurants, hotels, and casinos. That sum helps pay the wages of hotel staff, the earnings of taxi drivers, the tips for servers, and the income of countless workers who depend on tourism to survive. When those same 50 people decide not to come, the loss is immediate and visible. $200,000 evaporate overnight. For local businesses, that money isn't an abstract statistic. It's the oxygen that keeps them alive. And everyone knows what happens when oxygen runs out. In Hawaii, the cancellation of a single Korean tour group can mean 40 empty hotel rooms over one weekend. The housekeeping crew is sent home early. Restaurants lose hundreds of meal orders. Souvenir shops close before dusk, counting the day's losses in silence. It becomes a domino effect. One missing group of travelers tipping the balance for dozens of small businesses. Korean tourists are also known for their concentrated spending habits. At outlet malls in California, it's common to see visitors buying entire suitcases filled with clothes and gifts. In Las Vegas casinos, groups often gather around baccarat tables, spending freely and adding life to the floor's atmosphere. Their absence leaves not only a financial gap, but also an emotional one, the quiet hum of activity replaced by stillness. The story of declining Korean tourism is not just about numbers or lost profits. It's about perception, dignity, and trust between nations. Tourism thrives on the belief that a traveler will be welcomed, respected, and safe. When that belief cracks, recovery takes years. America's challenge now is not simply to restore arrivals from South Korea, but to rebuild the confidence that once made visiting the United States feel like an adventure, not a risk. Because behind every canceled ticket and empty chair lies the same unanswered question: what kind of welcome does America truly offer today? When that familiar crowd doesn't arrive, the silence becomes deafening, like money draining away without a sound. Local shopkeepers feel it first. A cosmetic store owner in Los Angeles remembers when Korean customers used to come with suitcases, buying boxes of lipstick to take home. Now, she says with a bitter laugh, we sell lipstick to ourselves. Behind the humor lies an uncomfortable truth. The absence of these travelers has grown expensive, measured not only in lost sales but in shaken livelihoods. People often say money can't buy happiness, but anyone relying on tourism knows that a lack of it quickly breeds worry. A retiree working part-time in a Hawaiian restaurant can't smile when tips vanish and hours are cut. A hotel employee can't find peace when shifts disappear. These worries may begin with a decline in Korean visitors, but they reveal a deeper fragility within America's tourism economy. If this community of travelers stops coming, who will replace them? Will it be Japanese visitors, Australians, Europeans, or will the streets of once-bustling destinations simply grow quieter, restaurant lights dimmer, and signs of decline more visible with every passing season? The numbers tell the story. In 2023, more than 1.3 million South Koreans visited the United States, spending billions collectively. A 10% drop alone wipes out hundreds of millions of dollars. That money doesn't vanish from corporate accounts. It disappears from small diners, family-run shops, and local workers who depend on every sale and every tip to survive rising costs. Groceries already stretch budgets thin. A pound of beef costs as much as sneakers. Losing another stream of income only deepens the strain. In Honolulu, a hotel manager put it plainly: we aren't afraid of tsunamis. We're afraid the charter flights from Seoul won't land anymore. Her words sound light-hearted, but the message cuts deep. Natural disasters pass. Empty flights can cripple tourism for years. Every missing Korean group represents dozens of American jobs: drivers, servers, cleaners, cooks, ordinary workers whose livelihoods depend on those steady waves of visitors. The loss is not abstract. It is direct, personal, and painful. What makes it worse is how preventable much of it seems. South Koreans once entered the U.S. easily through the ESTA visa waiver program. With a few clicks online, they could confirm travel without worry. But after the pandemic, that convenience faded. Processing time stretched from days to weeks, sometimes months. Security check became tougher, and what once felt like a friendly welcome began to feel like a bureaucratic obstacle. Add in the shock of recent deportations and concerns over treatment at customs, and one question keeps surfacing among potential travelers: is the welcome worth the trouble? Applying for a standard tourist visa now can take 8 to 12 weeks. For many families, that wait is enough to change their minds and choose Paris, Tokyo, or Bangkok instead. Japan, Australia, and Europe all offer simpler, faster travel processes. For every traveler who chooses Tokyo instead of Los Angeles, thousands of dollars flow into another country's economy rather than America's. If only 10,000 travelers make that switch, it means roughly $40 million lost, the equivalent of the operating budget for an entire small town. The impact becomes clearer when viewed through local stories.in Los Angeles. A family once ran a small homestay catering almost exclusively to Korean visitors. For years, their rooms were booked months in advance, a dependable source of income that kept their business thriving. Today, the calendar sits empty. When asked what changed, former guests offered a simple answer: applying for U.S. visas has become too exhausting. Traveling to Canada or Japan is easier, faster, and less frustrating. It's not that they've stopped loving America, it's that America has made itself harder to reach. The irony is striking. A nation that built its reputation on openness and opportunity is increasingly seen as a closed door. Officials may defend tougher visa rules as necessary for national security, but for small businesses, safety doesn't pay the rent. Security doesn't keep restaurants open or employees on the payroll when bookings fall through. The larger question becomes unavoidable. If visas continue to tighten, who pays the price first? The answer isn't found in government offices or corporate boardrooms. It's the ordinary workers whose livelihoods vanish long before any political debate settles. Picture the streets of Los Angeles' Koreatown on a weekend night not long ago. Neon signs glowing, Korean barbecue restaurants packed, and laughter spilling onto the sidewalks. Now imagine the same streets today. The lights are still on. The aroma of grilled meat still fills the air, but half the tables sit empty. Waiters stand idle. The hum of prosperity has faded into a low echo of loss. What was once a symbol of community and success now carries the scent of decline. This is an exaggeration. It's a realistic snapshot of what happens when visa hurdles rise and headlines about deportations remain fresh in memory. Even a small change in fees or paperwork can send the wrong message. For many Koreans, it's not the cost that matters, but the meaning behind it. A new application fee may seem minor to officials, but to travelers, it feels like a quiet rejection. Are we really welcome here? If that question lingers without reassurance, the decision becomes simple. They'll choose another destination. Tokyo, Paris, and Sydney greet visitors with open doors and efficient systems. America, by contrast, appears increasingly hesitant, slow, and suspicious. The consequences of that perception reach far beyond tourist statistics. They show up in the daily lives of Americans who never imagined that global policy decisions could touch their paychecks. A recent report warns that by 2025, as many as 10 major U.S. airports could see steep declines in group travelers from South Korea.